Canon just released firmware 1.7 for the Canon EOS R5 and the Canon EOS R6. Did we finally get that 30-minute record limit removed, or at least extended to something like 6 hours? Or is this some sort of minor maintenance update? Details coming up, but first, I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so that way you can stay up to date on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. Canon just released firmware 1.7 for the Canon EOS R5 and the Canon EOS R6. And like previous firmware updates, if you haven't updated 1.6 or any other previous updates, this is a cumulative update providing you with all the benefits of previous firmware updates. Both cameras get the exact same update, the same fixes, the same enhancements, and sadly, there are no enhancements to this firmware update. There's no lifting or extending of that 30-minute record limit. In fact, if you recall back to the Canon EOS R10, R7, and R3 update, that really minor update is exactly what we're getting here. Firmware 1.7 corrects a phenomenon where the camera would not operate normally while shooting a small subject. And they do say that this is in rare occasions, so small subjects, I don't know if it's a child, if it's a bird, an insect, or me from, well, far off into the frame. I really don't know. But this is the only this is the only fix that we get, and the other fixes are so small, they're so minor, that all Canon says is many other minor updates. So not a huge update, and this is a bit disappointing, I get that, but let's do a little bit of a reflection here. This is firmware 1.7. Canon has provided us some 10 firmware updates since the camera was released back in July of 2020, and the R6 has gotten almost as many updates, although not as many enhancements. And I want to take a moment to say thanks to Canon, because I know they're watching. Canon, thank you for continuously updating and improving and providing us with further enhancements and fixes to this camera since it came out. Here we are almost 2.5 years after the announcement and release of the Canon EOS R5, and I don't feel like with every new camera coming out that this camera feels old, it feels long in the tooth. Here we are in 2022. As we embark on 2023, and I feel like, well, this camera is still new, this camera still offers a lot of value, and there are very few cameras out there that provide the same level of capabilities. Had you not updated the, autofocus system, had you not provided us with Canon Log 3 and some other updates, yes, this camera would just probably feel a little bit long in the tooth at this point. But as we get ready for what most likely is a refresh cycle in 2023 or 2024, I feel confident that the R5 is still a really good camera, but I look forward to what you're putting in future cameras. And I hope you continue this update. Not every manufacturer is continuing to provide firmware updates for their cameras long after they've been released. And yes, of course, Lumix has been doing this for many, many years. Lumix and Canon are almost exceptions to the rule. Nikon has even started doing it in recent years with a Nikon Z9, but others like Sony or Pentax, well, they're slow to release firmware updates, if at any. Once you get the camera, that's pretty well it. And if they release a newer camera and a camera that costs a whole lot less and gets some enhancements, well, we're not likely to see those enhancements in a current firmware update. It's most likely going to be in a new, updated model to come out later. So while I'm still frustrated by that 30-minute record limit, that's something so easy for you to fix. And yes, we have been paying attention here at the Ordinary Filmmaker. We saw it extended to 6 hours in the R3, which pretty well eliminates that record limit. And it's gone from, the R7 and the R10, again, being extended to 6 hours. And I'm sure, just like with the R6 Mark II, in the R5 Mark II, it's also going to be extended. We just don't know when you're going to be releasing that camera. So it is frustrating. Please give it to us in a firmware update. If you put it in a firmware update, that's not going to stop us from getting the R5 Mark II. If anything, that makes us feel better about what you're providing us with, and that you're not crippling these cameras, that you're not holding stuff back, just trying to force us into an update. If anything, what that does is makes us feel better and more confident and, more satisfied, provide us with a better customer experience with the gear that you've sold us already, that we're more likely to upgrade in the future, rather than considering switching to somebody else. But now let's take a look at the firmware update that we got for the Canon EOS R6. And again, we get the exact same update, we get the exact same correction, and that's to correct the phenomenon where the camera wouldn't operate normally while shooting small subjects, and this happens in rare occasions. And of course, various other minor updates. So the R6 in this case gets the exact same enhancements and fixes as the R5. Woohoo! Just sadly, there aren't any enhancements and, minor fixes. Again, this is a good thing. This is a camera that's came out 2.5 years ago, and we're still getting firmware updates to provide fixes. And I think this is awesome. And while I haven't noticed any issues with small subjects with the autofocus or with the camera performing in a strange way, I'm still happy to know that they're working on improving the camera, so when I go out and shoot, I'm less likely to have any issues. Or when I'm shooting for this channel here, it's less likely that the autofocus system is just going to freeze. Now, I've done some 900 videos, and in that time, this has only happened about 5 times, and it happened on this 70D too, so it seems to be something inherent with the dual pixel autofocus system, or the technology or the focusing capabilities of the Canon cameras. But what will most often happen, it's not like the autofocus will just freeze while I'm shooting. It's that as soon as I turn on and start recording, if I'm not paying attention, sometimes the autofocus is just locked. You can move the switch back and forth, nothing's happening. I basically just have to turn the camera on and off again, do a reboot, and it works perfectly fine. But like I said, I've been shooting over 900 videos for this channel. I've shot a ton of work in my personal life, doing events and other films. And I got to tell you, it's happened so rarely that I don't even do a check. But here I am sitting, filming right now, and all I have to do is be silent, move back and forth like this, and I can hear the little cricket chirping of the stepping motors within the RF 50mm f1.2, and I can tell it's working. And as long as it's working when I start, I'm not going to have any problems at the end. So this happens so rarely. I don't know if these minor bug fixes would address that, but you know, little things like that. And some of you have mentioned to me that sometimes your camera just shuts off or just locks up. So not a lot going on in this firmware update, but as always, when it comes to a firmware update, no matter how interested you are in getting it, what I highly recommend doing is don't go ahead and apply it right away. I haven't applied it at this point because I don't see it as a big deal, but I'll probably go ahead and apply it later today. What you should always do is wait a week or two, and that way, if there are any major issues coming out with that firmware update, then you're safe and you can wait for that firmware update to that update. And we saw this, I think it was last year with the Canon EOS R6, I believe it was firmware 1.4, provided a capability that essentially bricked the camera. You had to remove the battery, put it back in, and things would basically come back to life. Canon pulled the firmware update within a couple of hours and then issued a few days later firmware 1.4.1. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors or the latest firmware updates coming out for your camera, go ahead and click subscribe, followed by all notifications. And by choosing all notifications, that saves you from scrubbing the latest Twitter feeds, RSS feeds, your favorite websites, your favorite YouTube channels, print magazines, whatever it is, because I cover all the major camera brands, all the major camera models, as well as all the major news and rumors all here in one spot. And go ahead and take a look at the last 900 videos. You can see that I cover pretty well everything. I even get into drones. Anything related to filmmaking or cinematography is all right here. So please go ahead and subscribe and choose all notifications. But that's it for now. Have yourself a great day. We'll see you again soon.